Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Welcome to the special subgroup, 6th of January 2026. Agenda, evaluation procedure. Have we got any members of the public? No? Anybody okay with where we're going? Who is the officer tonight? Is that you, Amanda? Or Beth? Apologies for absence and members away on official business. I've got one apology from Councillor Bates and Councillor Humphreys is subbing. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Dispose of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Do we have any? So agenda item 6. Recommendation to special subgroup approve the creation of 2 new community safety officers posts on a 3-year temporary contract. Now, do we want Becky to give us a short overall, or do we want to ask questions first? Councillor Jarvis?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Looking at the yes, and as Sam speaking somewhat as chair of the Safe Communities, knowing what the workload is there, and yes, there is a requirement for some assistance for the current officer. But that's without discussion. It's needed. I think the one thing that does concern me a little is the reporting route of them, that they're not working actually for the community safety officer. And so that's just a little bit of a concern that they're doing a community safety post, but not working for the community safety officer.
Councillor Jarvis, could you just give us a short, story about it's alongside, say, the communities?
Yes, so the community safety officers, along with the current community safety person, will sit under my division. So they're all under the same, in the same team. We want it because this is about behaviour change and community engagement. We didn't want them sitting directly under that post. We think that they would be better suited as a generic kind of communities agenda, which is why they don't report directly to Julie.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
I was looking at 3.3 here. Community safety officers in the UK often referred to as police community support officers. Well, I mean, is this going to be a uniformed role? And are they reporting? Are they council workers or are they going to be police workers? Because are they PCSOs or are they council officers? Confusing me.
Definitely council officers through you, Chair. So the idea is that it will be a presence, so on the ground presence from the council enforcing the things that we want to enforce. So the role came about because there's been a lot of issues that have been raised recently around, we've had a couple of motions around community safety, we've had parking issues. So this gives us the ability to, rather than kind of rely on partners such as Warwickshire County Council and police colleagues, we can work in partners. It gives us a little bit more control over the mitigation and the enforcement of that. But they're definitely council roles, but we would see them working quite heavily with the SMTs, so PCSOs, delivering community safety initiatives.
Thank you. Councillor Watson?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think, as Councillor Stewart said, I think on the community safety one, I think we've had lots of debate, lots of conversations, and I think there's been lots of support and understand why their roles are there. But if I may, the other question I wanted to ask was around the other role that's being proposed this evening as part of the same recommendation around the green space officer. I think if you read the text in the report, I understand that. And I kind of get that, and I get the name. But when I go to the role or the requirements of stuff, I've got a real concern about what's essential and what's desired. And the reason I say that is because there's essentials a lot around climate change, but that's all essential. And the one that I cannot get my head around, experience of working with councillors is a desired skill, not an essential skill. I would have thought that would have been a bit more. So I think I'll just when I look at the role profile about what's essential and what's desired, it doesn't quite correlate with the words that are in the report above it. And unless I'm misreading something.
Councillors, come back, Becky. Well, Councillor Stewart,
Yeah,
it's
well,
got
because-
along those lines.
Yeah, I had a coming in from the opposite end to you actually, Martin, is that the fact is I read the report and I was thinking, oh, they're taking everything to do with climate change out. And when you see the job title, it doesn't even relate to that. Then you read the spec and there's an awful lot more in relation to climate change and that strategic kind of role, which I was pleased with. The question I had then is actually, is the job title appropriate? Because if I was a professional who'd worked in this field, possibly in the field of climate change as well, I might just skim past that thinking, well, it could be a, big man plus, or, a grounds kitchen plus kind of role. So that was where my concern was, in relation to that. I know that right now there's a lot of pushback against mentioning things such as climate change. It is not as trendy as it once was. But I think if we're actually seeking to fill that role and fulfil our obligations to the council that have been set, then I actually think that climate change should actually be part of the job role or job title, if it is, as it is there, front and centre in the actual role.
Okay, we go back to the two community safety officers first. So I know it said that they're working alongside PCSOs, and then it said dog fouling, parking. And I know this question was asked by Councillor Stewart, and I was got that concern as well as the time frame, because parking is normally at night. And dog fouling is early in the morning when people take the dogs to the walk at 6:30 in the morning. And we've had this trouble, as you know, before, but then you kind of answered that and said it will be Monday to Saturday, but the would work. So is this going to work like it did before, when councillors can report in, when they did with the older dog warden we used to have, and say, look, we've got a real problem in Westwood Park, just saying, at this time in the morning. And then what we used to do is just put that. Would that work on a similar thing? Right.
Yeah, so the contract, so like it is with our current community officers, their contract is Monday to Sunday, and they have weekend and evening work. So they can't claim overtime and things like that. It's all in lieu, but it is essentially when it's needed. So you can look at parking when you need it, the dog family need it. So yeah, the idea is that as councillors, members of the public, they can report things, and these community safety officers have those powers to investigate. So that was part of their job spec as well, is the ability to kind of do that investigative work.
Okay. And I know there was the kind of concern about the structure between these community safety officers sitting on one board and then the Safer Communities Board. So at 3.7, it said the agreement is to sort to recruit 2 community officers on a 3-year temporary contract with regular reporting back to C&E board and performance outcomes. Do you think if this is agreement with all the councillors, we could put a small amendment in there that they report back to Safer Communities as well?
Yeah.
Because then it links in with what they do.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Councillor Watson and then Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, the other question that relates to kind of both of them, why is this a fixed term contract or 3-year contract and the other ones are permanent? But if the roles required, then why is one being done as fixed term and one being done as a permanent role? Just curious.
So it is essentially budget. So the community safety officers post, they're brand new to us, and we're going to pay through that through reserves. Whereas the green space officer environment is being paid through a post that is already on the establishment, so it can be permanent.
But that post was this. Apologies, I can't remember the young fella's name. The chap who presented to us.
Robert's name.
Was it Robert? Was it Robert who presented to us in Ballroom or in the?
Yeah.
Right. So this is okay. So let me ask the direct question then.
Go on.
Is this just creating a role for him? Because I believe his contract was up, wasn't it?
Yes, and he doesn't work with us anymore.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
And he was a consultant. He wasn't a.
Right. Okay.
Councillor Jarvis, then councillor Options.
Looking at 3.8,
On which one now? Community support?
yeah, there's community support, yeah, 3.8. If agreed, a job description and personal spec in consultation with the police will be created and subject to evaluation and moderation. How will that be shared and how will it be constructed? Because, as I say, it looks like it's biased towards police because the title there says that they're called PCSOs, which needs amending because we want a difference between a police officer and a council officer. We can't call them both PCSOs. That's just crazy. You say you're a PCSO. Well, are you a PCSO that works for the council or works for the police? That just doesn't float my boat at all. So there needs to be some proper defined between those.
Well, these will be CSOs.
Yeah, they're not called.
Not just somebody sits up. Yeah.
But they're going to be PC. It
PCSOs.
says PCSOs here.
No, it says they're often referred to.
Community safety
Yeah.
officers.
So there needs to be a real good definition between the two. So there's no nowhere for the public to mistake that.
Police,
But going back to
Community support.
the original one, the job description, will that be shared as soon as possible to all of us that have an input in that area? You know, including obviously myself as chair of community safety.
and the shadow of.
Yes,
Safety.
yeah.
Councillor
Shared to the
Chris?
appropriate ones. Yeah.
I have a problem. I can understand reporting back to both committees, but you can only have one master, can't you? You can't have two committees report. So it's work's going to have to be tasked from one boss, because I could just see somebody saying, "I'd like this done," and the other boss saying, "No, we're going to do this."
I understand that. Could we probably box it that then that Julie will be involved in this, I take it. So, yeah, so then she can report back to Safe Communities.
We can report, I think we can report back to.
Yeah.
The both without any major issue.
Okay? Is everybody okay with this? Aye.
Yeah. With that, with the item A.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay.
We just concentrating on
That's-
it earlier. So
Yeah. I'll propose it.
proposed by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Gilliman. Good. Right, now we're good to B.
Can I just say one thing, Chair?
Oh, sorry.
We have agreed
We have a
that
vote on that.
we have a time frame for when the job spec comes out.
Can you just give me a reason why?
It's got to come out before you recruit.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a
Yeah.
bit of chicken and egg, isn't it?
So I can, you've got your Safer Communities subcommittee on Monday, haven't you?
Yes.
So I'll get it to you before then, so you can present it.
It's Monday, isn't it?
Next Monday, yeah.
It's already drafted.
So we've had a proposal and a second. Everybody in favour?
Or about, yeah?
Yeah, A, yeah. Right, B, that the inclusion of a green space officer environment in the staff establishment within the community section be agreed. I've got the same concerns as Councillor Watson with the job script of D. Should be desired and it should be experienced, because I think working with 35 different councillors, they should have a bit of experience rather than it's desirable to work with 35 councillors all with different views. So any more questions on B? Councillor, I've seen two hands. Councillor Watson.
I agree with Councillor Stewart in a way, because I hadn't read the role as an environmental officer role. Because I was looking at green spaces, I was thinking of parks, I was thinking of all sorts of other things rather than that. And it was only when I was reading through, and I thought, actually, more like a climate change, environmental type role than that. So it just worries me. It disconnects from me. It doesn't join up, if that makes just what are we actually recruiting for? And I'd probably like a bit more understanding about what is it we're actually trying to achieve? What's the outcome? What's that going to be? Because at the moment, I'm not quite sure. I think there's a disconnect, and I agree with you. I think you and I were reading it almost at opposite ends. And the fact if we're sitting here not quite sure.
Councillor Curley.
I think that this role as more than any other, there should be a part of it where they're looking at the floodplains and where properties are being built because of floodplain issues. We're building that many properties in the area. There's nowhere for the water to settle and soak away. If it's concrete slabs, it's all going to end up in one place. And I think that the environmental person, whomever it might be, needs to be incorporated into the issues with planning as well, not just as an environmental standalone. Should cover a whole range of waste, and it should cover floods. It's all environmental. You can't just sort of say, well, he's to deal with bins and he's to deal with so and so, and that person does it. No, it's got to be the whole orbit of all of it. That's my opinion.
Councillor. Who was next? Thank you.
I'll defer.
Yeah, so
You were just, sorry, I don't want us to like go back to an earlier topic. I'm less concerned about the desirable and essential thing in relation to, with councillors. What I am concerned about is that if you have it as essential, there could be exceptional candidates who haven't previously worked in a local government environment, but may have worked, say, within the civil service. Yeah, who you say, therefore, are they shortlistable? No, because they don't have this, but they have the ability to do it. And so that's why I think I'd be worried about ruling people out that would be exceptional.
Councillor Giles. Councillor Watson.
Looking at what Councillor Turley says, obviously that falls within the remit, the floods fall well within the remit of the county council. Where I see that maybe fitting is that they become a statutory consultee because they have no powers over that at all, but that could fit in there as a statutory consultee.
No, but we have in this area here, we have planning control over properties and buildings and units and whatever. And it was willy-nilly, admittedly agreeing to them without thought about where the water's going to go when it comes off the roofs. That's not to do with county, that's us here. That is my own opinion. And I think shifting it to county area is not really, they're not savvy with the local water table, water. We need people here. That is my opinion.
I actually totally agree. That, I mean, if you look at the one down by Aldi, certain councillors here made sure that they were aware that they were building not on a floodplain, but in floods. And they've just carried on and done it. Because county council say that the 1 in 100 years, it won't affect it. But
I think the 100-year plans well out the window.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is. But going back to the other, that if we as planning board say no, we ain't having this, but the local flood authority, which is the county council, say ain't got a problem, and then the developer goes to appeal, they'll get it.
I do.
So I think yes, I agree basically where you are, but I think there needs to be more of a statutory consultee so they can feed into the thing than a decision maker, because the decision maker has got to be county. And as I say, if the local flood authority, which is county, says ain't got a problem, and then the developer, we say as a board, we don't like it, they go to appeal, the inspector says, well, the local authority says there ain't a problem, I'll pass it. And I think the way to get input is to be a statutory consultee to it. I think that is a better route into it.
Right, can I just ask Becky about D, knowledge and experience, free management, including the coordination and management of planning initiatives.
Right.
But this isn't like who we use at county, is it? The stream, I thought that, because obviously we lost Andy Watkins, didn't we? He was brilliant. So I just wanted to get that straight. Councillor Watson.
I'm Councillor Turley, and personally, we are the planning authority. Actually, we're the whether Flood County say yay or nay, we can still approve or disapprove
Yeah,
or deny an application. They might be statutory, but they are not the planning authority. We are. I agree with Councillor Turley. I don't want this role just to be climate change, and I get that climate change is important. I get that. And when we had that conversation in there, we talked about it being broader. I think it's a broader role, and I absolutely agree with Councillor Turley. We need to be thinking about floodplains, trees, parks, all that sort of thing. So I see it. I agree with it as an environmental role and something that looks at that broader concept of it. My worry is in the way this is written, and that it evolves into a climate role rather than a broader role around the environment.
That's why I said it's got to cover waste.
Yeah.
As well.
Councillor Humphries, then Councillor.
Well, I'm a bit, I was talked about two horses, two masters for one horse. Now it looks like Nigel's got three horses or
Yeah,
three
why not? It's a lot
because-
awful.
Because we've got an environmental officer, we've also got waste officers. The point I'm making is
Yeah, we got Ben, please.
the spec of this job should cover how we decide it here tonight,
Yeah.
not necessarily encompass everything that's already being looked after.
Yeah, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. If we've identified a further need that isn't being covered, I think that that's an important point. And as we come to budget setting, I think that to have a proposal that we could gain cross-party consensus of in terms of we've identified that there's an issue related to flooding, how are we going to go and address that? That could be done via an add-on to a particular role and the placing of an honorarium. It could be done via a number of different methods. It could be a specific role, be that part-time, could that be shared with other local authorities? I'm worried that what we've got in front of us here tonight, which is a replacement, as it says, with the grant that's coming from the climate change individual who's left. And the feeling at that meeting, which we had, was the first meeting of the climate change group for how long? But the consensus in that room was we need to start acting on this again, and we need to start looking strategically on how we go and do it, and a whole range of issues, which was why I was concerned that that was being missed completely. The concern that I've got is that we're getting confused by a job title, which suggested it's one thing, when in actual fact the job might be something else. Now we've only got to decide whether, if we decide that we want to change our approach towards climate change, that's going to need a motion to go through full council, and if that's the feeling of the democratic elected representatives, then that's fine. My feeling is that until we get that, this is how we proceed. If we also identify there's a need for floodplains, and someone to go and check on that and the kind of impact that comes from this, now's exactly the right time to have that conversation, because we are setting in today's budget, and I think that actually you'd find it hard to find a councillor who wouldn't be in favour of having some specific action taken in that particular field. So I think that that's for a conversation for us to have as councillors outside of this meeting. But the concern that I've got here is in relation to the job title, or we decide whether that's what it is.
So check that.
I absolutely think Councillor Stewart, in relation to that job title, I've looked into do grants and parks as well. But if you look on page 7 on key task number 3, there's an ideal reference in there that we could potentially take, which is environmental sustainability and climate change officer. Just a thought, it's already written in there. Just to take that and put that at the top, and then it's doing what it says on it. Just a thought.
Chair, if I could cut. I think we're all kind of arguing about if it's a climate change officer, then call it a climate change officer.
Absolutely.
That's I think where we're all kind of going. We're not quite sure what this means. What is this role? If it is climate change, then call it that. And that might not be,
Won't be the Daily Mail.
yeah, it might not be great, or people might not like it or whatever. But if that's the role, then call it the role and actually have the person focus on the role. I think when I was reading through it, I was just getting a bit confused about. I'm not quite sure what it's trying to achieve. It was almost trying to tick too many boxes for the sake of, because it's not perhaps as trendy as it once was. But if that's what it is, and I agree with Councillor Stewart, when we was in that room, we talked about not just going off, like, actually, what can we do? What can we do to our housing stock? What can we do to our sites? What can we do to our own buildings that make them more environmentally friendly? If that's the case, then fine. But let's just be clear about what it is, because I don't think it's very clear at the moment. And I agree that I think the title misleads what it actually could be about.
It's a jack of all trades and a master of none.
You've got this
Yeah, because
At the moment.
if you look on page 10, attitude and motivation, awareness of community needs and the aspirations and the council's ability to meet those needs. So the aspirations and the awareness at the minute, as a lot, I mean, on climate change is the climate. And I think you're right, Councillor Watson, just the name that's a bit, you know. So do we just go for a climate change officer?
Well, can I?
Yeah, Councillor Gunn.
Sorry.
Councillor Turner.
Can I just say, I mean, sustainability is about community change as well, and improvement, supporting the community. That's part of, you know, any company that does sustainability and social governance activities, that's a key part of that work that they do. So you've already got sustainability in that bit on page 7. So I kind of think you just need to play with the words, really. I mean, that's just my opinion. Sure, everyone else is going to differ, but I think you kind of covers everything, or you can just see what is necessary.
Oh, sorry, I've just been scanning through and it's a few bit further on, you've got a green space officer, brackets, environmental. So how many more green space, waste disposal, environmental brackets do we need? Just put them all into one umbrella and one person at the top and delegate it to millions below.
So
That was all I've got to say.
But do you want to come back on any of them points, Ben? Paul, Councillor again.
So I think, you know, I kind of note everyone's comments there. I think the reason that we've done it is a green space officer environment, and I think the sustainability works perfectly well in those brackets as well as any other word. Because we've just changed the climate change working party name as well, haven't we, to sustainability working party. So that fits within that, that's seamless. We used to have a team of green space officers, we're now down to 1. Part of this role is almost your mitigation of climate change. So your tree planting initiatives, your biodiversity credits, so they'll be working really closely with planning. So your flora, your fauna. So the green space bit, I'd like to keep if we can. I think that reflects what a lot of this role might be, and then perhaps sustainability instead of environment. I'm happy with whatever you.
Yeah, because as I asked you the question this morning or yesterday about the green space officer, because obviously I've been dealing with Eleanor. She's been absolutely brilliant to do with all the playing fields, you know, and the new sites and everything. But it don't kind of mention any of that bit in here. So, you know, I'd hate to think that through this climate change and green space officer, we wasn't losing the community side of it, which is, you know, the playing sites and the fields and all that. So that was one question I asked you. You did actually said no, we won't be losing that. Councillor Kirby.
Sorry, I'm going to be a thorny, just
You could be a thorn.
You all these proposed officers, green space officer and our environmental climate change officer, and will they all have a CC copy into any planning that goes through to have their input into new developments and or redevelopments and or brownfield sites, etc., 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 or will they just be, well, that's what you got to deal with it? Sorry.
And so,
You see where I'm coming from there?
yeah, no, like I am.
It gives the people that sit on planning, having sat on planning a long while ago, a lot more metal.
Yeah, so absolutely, I would see that this role is that kind of information for all those different departments. And the other thing that I was going to mention that's just completely gone out of my head, but it will come back.
Can I just interject here to help give Becky 30 seconds?
Go on then, Councillor Stewart.
No, that was it.
Yeah, no, it'll come back to me in a minute.
I raise a point that it follows on from exactly that. I mean, what's really interesting in vice chair planning is that when we're looking at planning considerations, we look at sustainability. We use the word sustainability. Is it sustainable planning kind of thing? But what we mean by that is, are there bus routes, are there paths, are there schools, are there kind of local thing? It's not about whether it's green. Unfortunately, under the current planning framework, the green credentials are fairly low down from a decision-making perspective on planning either approval or denial.
Unless you're the tree hugger.
Well, no. Well, we get lots of TPOs and we get lots of kind of treat things generally around safety actually, rather than the environmental bit. But you know, no one likes cutting down trees. But it's a really valid point. But there is a disconnect between the planning process and whether it fits the climate agenda.
As I say, we've sat on planning in the past, so I've got a general idea of what goes on. But it does seem that if these are going to be starting to be a thorn in the side of the council, then they need to be moved up the flipping pile a tiny bit. Instead of being, oh, and by the way,
Once
we
again,
need to look at this, and, oh, by the way, we need to look at that. They should be further up the heap.
Should be
It's
established.
maybe not.
But you're looking at a different type of,
can I,
most planning.
answer at a time, please, since Councillor Glimmer had go around us.
Sorry, is it because I'm not the only girl this evening? It's two of us. Just a quick one with regards to there is the UN's 17 sustainability goals, which are a corporate thing that a lot of companies now pursue, where they publish a social governance report every year about how well they're doing, and all the things that we've touched on these are covered on those 17 goals. So the fact that you have community engagement, you go and do a litter pick, or you go and, you know, you're mindful of the trees and the TPOs and the green spaces and everything else. So they're all part and parcel in those 17 sustainability goals. I mean, it might be worthy. Forgive me, Becky, I don't know if you've been on the UN. I'm so sad. I really need to get out more work. My suggestion would be, if you've not done it, go onto the UN website, look for the 17 sustainability goals, and they're in there. And honestly, all those tend to be in this document. You've covered everything. So, you know, that they use the term sustainability for everything. So, and covers some wording, you know, but that's from the UN. Who am I to know?
Thank you.
That's right.
Councillor Humphries.
If we really were meant to do it, we'd actually have in planning, we'd have recyclable water on every new development. We'd have, passive house rules in terms of window sizes and installation and voltaic plates and stuff like that. So we're only just playing at it. We just built under the current rules, just outside of our border, 3.8 million square feet of warehousing up at Mercia Park, and there's not one solar panel in sight. If they'd have wanted it, they'd have made sure it would happen. So, I think we're trying to, and when you start talking about putting people further up the tree, most of our planning officers have got honours degrees in urban planning, I think. So, but I don't see anything. Is this a degree, honours degree? Mostly.
HCD, yeah, it was on the national. Yeah.
I'm national. Like I'm national, so I think that's better than a degree. It's hard to get.
So, well, just following off from Councillor Humphrey's points, is that if we are saying that we want to elevate certain things or decide how high they should be, a role such as this is going to be absolutely critical, because it's there to identify what we're not doing and then how we can potentially go about it. And any decisions that we want to decide to make in terms of guidance for our own internal processes, or that we provide to potential property developers to say, we would like you to start looking at this, whether they choose to or not, it's a different matter. But the fact is that we can encourage that kind of thing, can come from information that we'll only do if we fund positions such as this, and that we get adequate people to go and do them. I think that following off from Councillor Gilman's point of view is that I totally take it on board as well. There's a need to offer certain amount of pragmatism. Is that if you've only got one other green space officer, having another one actually reduces the vulnerability of both potential roles in terms of people being off in sickness and departures for whatever reason. It allows you to have that continuity kind of aspect there. But if we were just to expand the parentheses to include the phrase that's written elsewhere in the report. You know, environmental sustainability, stroke and climate change. I think it sends a very strong signal. And if we are going to be serious about things going forward and changing our own internal processes or changing the kind of advice and guidance that we give, having a strong signal such as that is a really good place to start.
What do councillors think about that? Adding the substantiability if we go.
I think it's a very long business card.
Exactly.
But we're making recyclable.
Well, the only comment I would make on that, Chair, if I may, is that under the new national planning framework, we are being battered and we are having it is a war of things, and grey belt in the green belt has become my most hated phrase. So actually, all
160. That's your most.
paragraph 154, 155, paragraph 160 talks about renewable energy in the green belt. So, but yeah, but anyway, sorry, we digress.
We debated it really well.
Yeah, but no, I think the problem, the challenge is if you don't name it right, and I get Becky's point about going out and Councillor Stewart's point about having two people the same job title, but if they're doing different jobs, it almost creates more confusion. For me, it's just at the moment, I just think it's not quite joined up enough as to what we want it to do in the report, and I think we've had really good debate about what we think it should do and what we think it could look like. I think be careful though. This role is not going to change the planning framework, because that's basically we've just spent 12 months getting our head around the new one, and all of the consultation that goes on that, and actually more stuff's going to be delegated anyway. So it's an interesting one. I think it's absolutely right. I'll go back to Councillor Stewart's point. You know, we all sat in that room and said, actually, stop worrying about like the kind of climate change agenda. What can we do to our housing stock, to our buildings, to our kind of things? And the reason most offices have not got solar panels on is that the National Grid can't take it anyway, and they've got nowhere to store it, which is why we're seeing all the battery storage application sites. So there's a number of things at play here that I think are really important and can actually feed into this. But I guess for me on the report at the moment, it's just kind of perhaps not as defined as I'd like to see it.
Councillor Stewart, no.
Yeah, I'm fully aware officers might hear this and roll their eyes silently inside their heads, so I don't see. But on the job description, presently where it's got the post title, there are two empty boxes underneath it, one which says division and section. Would it be possible that if we did, and I'd be very tempted to propose an amendment based upon this, depending on the answer, we did have a environmental sustainability stroke climate change officer, and then underneath that section you have division green spaces, which would allow for that flexibility. Is that a practical and pragmatic suggestion or a very stupid one?
Becky, can I just ask a straight question? Everybody knows that. Right. Is it being called the Green Space Officer because the money is coming from the past Green Space Officer post? You get where I'm coming from?
Do you get where you're coming from? And no.
Right, okay, that was the back of my head, yeah.
So we haven't got a green space division.
Okay.
And I've left it blank because you will all be aware of the management restructure that's happening, and that will include a divisional restructure. So we might be called something slightly different, which is why I've just left it blank for now.
Okay.
But would it meet the needs of those extra add-on and value bits
So I'm getting the
with the
feeling
post
in
title
the,
being changed?
I'm getting the feeling in the room that we want this climate thing, but some are not exactly happy with how it's the job description, Green Space Officer Environmental. Is that right?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, Chair, I think they're contradictory. I think the wording in being the job title don't connect with the desirable skill sets and ultimately what we want the role to do. And I think it could just be to clear it up so it's really clear as what is the role. And it's a really valid point, because if people see a job title and they go, well, what does that mean? Oh, that's a park ranger, that is, Green Space Officer. They'll go, I'm not even going to apply. And they might be the best candidate in the world. But I guess that's in my mind where it's going. I'm thinking,
yeah,
we're not saying what we want. What do we want? If we want a climate change officer, then put climate change officer. Or if we want, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we want to do something,
Shall we
But
amend?
but it doesn't say that, and actually then if you look at the wording's disconnected. But I do agree with Councillor, it's broader than that, it's not just climate change. I understand we need to do it, but it's the climate change impact on other things. What is our housing stock? And I've said it, what's our housing stock? What's our building? What's our LED? What's it?
So agreement with other councillors is we either amend this green space officer environmental stroke, or we ask for it to come back. For me, I think we could do it tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to propose that if it gets voted down, then we defer it. But I will propose the amendment that we change the post title to, looking at Councillor Gilmore at the same time, because I keep losing where it is. Environmental.
Point through.
Yeah.
Climate change officer.
No, environmental sustainability and climate change.
What do councillors think of that?
Personally,
No. Well, can I suggest that we actually put that, and then if it gets voted.
Councillor Gilman,
Yeah, can I just say that climate change is under the UN's 17 goals for sustainability.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to state it as long as it's in the JD as climate change.
okay.
I get that, but at the same time, it is keyword searching. Everything else is a sustainability, as we said. Sustainability could be any one of the other 16 as well.
Yeah.
But so you know, is a
Councillor Watson.
my worry is exactly as Councillor said, but it's not in there. So I prefer to actually see it put in there, worded out we're all comfortable with roles we're all comfortable with activity we're all comfortable with, and then we approve it. You know, and I say I've not got an issue with the title. Like, I don't think it says what it does on the tin, and I think that's part of the problem. So I'd sooner see it actually rewritten, reproposed, including the UN kind of.
So is that a
It's 17
proposal?
Yeah, and it comes back to us.
So is that a proposal to defer?
Yes.
Come back next.
Yeah.
So I've got that proposal, and then I've got the proposal to change it unless you want to.
well. I just thought I was first. That was it.
Yeah, it will be yours first because yours is the first.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd like to propose Steve's, again, just thinking about how it's worded, maybe something like environmental climate change sustainability officer. I don't know, it's all the same words, just.
Yeah, it's all
It's
the same one, just not necessarily in the right
Exactly.
It's all the same.
Proposals at the minute.
His business card would be an A4 piece of
Councillor Stewart's, which is to amend the name of the post. And then I've got Councillor Watson's, which is to defer it, rejig it and come back to us. So I'm going to take the amended one first. Councillor Jarvis, and then we're going to.
I think the discussion here has said that nobody really knows where it is going, and I will second Councillor
Right,
Watson.
so I'll go a proposal and a second for Councillor Stewart's. And I've got a proposal and a seconder for Councillor Watson's. Right? So I take the amended one first. So all those in favour of Councillor Watson's to defer it and bring it back to the next special sub. Right. So then I'll take Councillor Stewart's is to change the,
So what was that?
sorry, that's 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you were as well, were you? Okay, so I didn't see your hand up. Councillor. So that was 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
So then we take Councillor Stewart's to rejig the name.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay.
If you're deferring it, then there's no point in voting on the full name of this thing.
Okay. So let me just say that when you do the rejig, sorry, you'll get in touch, obviously, as the chair. Who's the shadow chair on?
On what?
I haven't got one.
What your
Who's-
vice chair?
Yeah, who's the shadow chair?
Is it me?
It's gonna be one of them.
I think it's me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take me.
That's me.
I just gotta, if you're asking for head cook and bottle washer, then it needs to be in the title, head cook and bottle washer. If you're looking for somebody who needs to have a little bit of background knowledge about the United Nations, whatever it is, option 17, clause 5, you write it in. Needs to have working knowledge of in the job description. Not, I mean, I wouldn't go.
I think we've already voted.
Sorry, yeah, but I wouldn't be going to apply for a brain surgeon.
Don't
I
know.
might be a surgeon in steel, but I can't do brain surgery.
Can I just suggest, probably not many chairs of boards do this, but I do have a councillor that sends questions beforehand, so the answers are here on the night, and that's quite open to any councillor on my board. If there's a question that you'd like a specific answer for on that night, then I'm quite happy to take those questions. Because I'm sure it helps me, it helps Becky, you know, that she
Well,
can
you
have
feel
the
like
answers.
you're
Can I just clarify, I only going by the definition on the UN regarding sustainability. Yeah, that's all I'm doing. So it's just to make it clear, it covers everything and nothing. Yeah.
Also research that's better for in the future, which the.
Well, you never know, but a lot of
No, I
companies
get
are
that.
going to suffer.
No, I agree.
Okay,
But they've got great flexibility
you
to
can finish, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
nice.